We've crowned them as title contenders. We've put expectations on their shoulders. They've got a superstar and point guard, Chris Paul, who's the new $107 million man. You've got a DeAndre Jordan, who, by the way, didn't do too bad last night, 17, 11, and 3 blocks. I got to give credit where credit is due. Even though Blake Griffin put in 19, I was sort of disappointed in him, Skip, because you had, number one, 4 turnovers. And number two, how are you Blake Griffin and you play 40 minutes at the power forward spot and you have a grand total of 1 foul? How does that happen? I mean, where are you? I mean, I have expectations for Blake Griffin because I believe in his skill sets. I believe what he can bring to the table. He heard all the criticism in the offseason. It certainly wasn't by me. I just reported what people were saying. But in the end, what it comes down to is that he's got to step up and he's got to be the big-time player we know he can be. What I loved after the game was 2 things from the Clippers. Number one, I saw Doc Rivers basically calling them out about feeling themselves and reminding them they hadn't accomplished anything yet. And number 2, knowing Chris Paul the way that I do, seeing the agitated look on his face, I understand that it's not going to be pleasant if the Clippers think that they're going to let moments like this happen. Because you don't want to open the season with the expectations, even though it was a road game, it was still on your home floor at the Staples Center. And to lose like that to this team, I can assure you Chris Paul probably went home and threw up. And I don't blame him because he's disgusted with his team's effort. But let me give credit where credit is due.
Please do.
We call out D'Antoni all last season. Here's what D'Antoni did this year with Mitch Kupchak. Got to give credit, at least for 1 game. What you did was you got younger and you got a bunch of dudes who want to run the floor and want to shoot. So now all of a sudden, instead of being incapable, inexplicably I might add, at how to play Gasol and Dwight Howard together, with Dwight Howard going, with a guy like Gasol in the middle for you, throwing the ball in the low post to him. You also got guys, Xavier Henry and Jordan Farmar and all of these boys just jacking up threes. And if you got that, and they hit some because they shot 29 threes last night, Skip. What did they hit here? 14? 48% from three-point range?
6 out of 8
Gotta
in the fourth
give
quarter.
credit. You do stuff like that, then you can make it a lot more interesting than we thought it would be. So, again, it's just 1 game. They might get blown out tonight by Golden State.
I think they will.
For 1 night,
Thank you.
For one night, give credit where credit is due. They surprised me.
So I think the Lakers proved last night they're better off without Kobe Bryant.
Oh, come on.
I just wanted to hear her
Get
a reaction from
really,
my partner here, right? Okay.
I'm not.
Now back to the real world.
Yes.
To your point, Stephen A., before I answer the Clippers question, your Clippers that you did pick to win the West, I think that last night Mike D'Antoni, for the first time in Los Angeles, finally found 5 guys at the end of the bench who are capable and willing of playing D'Antoni ball, 7 seconds or less, as you said. Because in the fourth quarter, I was stunned. He stuck with 5 non-starters the whole way. And I laughed at what Doc Rivers said after the game. He said, I kept hoping he'd put his starters back in because these guys were wearing us out. And they were. Not 1 starter played in the fourth quarter. So Gasol and Kaman and Steve Nash are sitting over there with Kobe in the second row watching the shock troops, the splinter squad, just run up and down the floor and run the Clippers off the floor that they share with the Lakers, 41-24 in the fourth quarter. Think of that, Stephen A. 41 points the Clippers gave up on their home floor in the fourth quarter. 6 out of 8 threes. 12 of those points were scored by Xavier Henry, who, to me, looked the best I've seen him look since he played for Putnam City High School in Oklahoma City, because I never even liked him at Kansas, where he averaged about 13.5 points a game. I couldn't see him going 16th overall in the first round. He's averaged 4.5 points a game through 3 NBA seasons, and all of a sudden, a career-high 22? Seriously? Do I think that's a blip or a trend? I'm going to say that's a blip. I'm not sure that's going to last, but there is more young depth there than we've seen in the at least last year. Now, to your Clippers, I do think they're a little overhyped. But to your point, I believe last night was just what the doc ordered, as in doctor, as in Doc Rivers. He needed that game to get his team's attention because, Stephen A., they got out-hustled and out-fought. They got crushed on the backboards, 52-40. They looked flat and deadheaded in the fourth quarter. They got rings run around them by the Lakers bench. It's one of those nights that is perfectly humiliating for Doc, because now he can build off this. Do I think in the next 81 games he can completely change that culture? I still don't love this team, and I think Doc ultimately will be frustrated.